Good evening, rock fans. This is Brad.
I'm Amy.
This is Mikey B.
This is Peoples.
We are joined by Zach, damn it, of the Nixons. How you doing, Zach?
Hey, guys. He's been waiting.
Right? He queued that up for us. We had to take advantage of it.
Thank you. Damn it. I thought my last name was damn it.
Right? What my mother used to call me, right?
Right.
Oh, geez. Well, great to have you, Zach. Thanks for taking the time. And,
thank y'all for having me. Appreciate you.
I know you guys have been busy. Saw the big show last week down at Trees, and kind of partial to that because of the Tide of DFW Legacy series and the vinyl release. So that was very cool. How was playing Trees again? You had a pretty packed house too.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I'll sound cheesy and, hyperbolic. I got a bunch of favorite venues, but Trees is, for that size of a venue, I don't know if there's a better one in the world, at least not in America. I mean, it's just the best. The people are awesome, but the room itself, we sort of grew up there in a weird way. And I got too many Trees stories to tell, but suffice to say, we couldn't get a gig. We talked off air, or off the thing here, and we couldn't get arrested in Dallas. Actually, I did get arrested in Dallas. My band couldn't get a gig, and so
there's a story.
No, but we would go to Trees and just hang out with the bartenders and hang out with the staff. Please book our band. Please book our band. They would not do it. So they had this thing where they did a 5-week tribute night. Every Tuesday was tribute night. So it was like, okay, tell you what, you can come next Tuesday and play Black Sabbath tribute night. We didn't know any Black Sabbath songs. We went home and we learned 3 Black Sabbath songs, and then we played 2 of our originals. And that was your set. And we finished and we drank with the bartenders till 5 a.m, and they liked us more. And then they said, come back next week for Van Halen tribute night. And then the next Tuesday was Kiss tribute night. And we did our best to cover bands we didn't really know that well, but it got us in the door. And then the next thing you know, we're opening for Radiohead and Tripping Daisy, and then now here we are selling it out, 30 years later. So we love that place, man. We love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that is
and it's crazy that I guess I didn't realize there was tribute bands back then.
Well, so it wasn't true. Well, okay, so I didn't know there were tribute bands, but these weren't tribute bands. This was like a tribute night. So you would have all kinds of Dallas bands. I mean, I think Daisy and the Toadies were too big for it, but there were a bunch of bands right on our level that would scrape up a couple, Van Halen songs so they could play at Trees because it was such an important stage. And so it was a big deal for us. That place is still a big deal for us. So
yeah, it's awesome. How long was it? It was closed for a while. That was a bummer.
Back in the late 90s.
Yep. It was awesome when Clint brought it back.
Absolutely.
Y'all were y'all part of that opening week, or I thought I could have sworn it.
Reopening?
The
we were
reopening?
not. We were not. Well, shit. I say that. I can't remember.
That's been 20 years ago.
You're just supposed to say, yeah, sure. Why not? I'm in.
Take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know Mike and Amy got a copy, but
Mhm.
I got mine as well. So
Love it.
good stuff.
Yeah, I think I almost got the last one. I don't know. It was like
Oh, that's right.
we
You got a
looked
low
at,
number.
The numbers a couple weeks ago or last week, and we're real close to those last few.
Yeah, I've got 221 of 300.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So how did that go about, Zach? Were you approached by GI, or how does that come about?
Yeah, Travis and GI. We know Travis. We've known them both forever, but I mean, they were doing that thing. They were, and I was watching on, social media. How cool is this? They're reissuing all these bands that I remember loving, and I haven't even thought of some of them in a long time. And reissuing stuff on vinyl. They came to us, and as Symmetry would have it, they asked us to be their 6th release, and our EP was called 6. And so we thought it'd be fun. We put a bunch of random cool stuff on the B side so that we would have more material, and kind of a cool sort of, again, reference back to that Trees show. So the vinyl has all these cool things. Like I said, some extras and rarities, and it has a live version of Displaced Aggression, a song that's on that album, with John Humphrey, who's our drummer now. But the original drummer's name is Ty Robinson, and Ty got up on stage with us this last week at Trees and played Displaced Aggression for the first time in about 30 years. So a lot of cool, like kind
That
of
is cool.
crossing lines, man. It was really, really pretty special. Really,
Yeah, I just noticed those were recorded in OKC. So
they were.
cool, very cool. All right, I'm kind of showboating here. This one's kind of my favorite, the Sonic Boom. So
I love
that
it.
one. Got that one. It's got a Baton Rouge remix on it, so big fan of that. And I know you guys released Crutch. What has it really been? 2019 when that was released?
Yeah, this whole releasing new music thing it's a different animal now, right?
Mhm.
Because
Totally.
you used to release a single, go work it to radio for a year, 6-8 months if you're lucky, a year if you're really lucky. Now it's like release something, okay, let's release something else, and so we're going to continue to release music ongoing. But yeah, Crutch it's been 2 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that. I had to double check that because I could have swore that was last year, but I think last year was a blur for a lot of us. So
For sure.
Well,
that
last
doesn't
year was
necessarily
like
surprise
10
me.
years in one
Right.
year. So who's to say what last year even was?
Right? Yeah, 2020 vision isn't as appealing as it used to be, right? Jeez. So my question is, FOMA, the self-titled scrapbook, are there vinyl copies of those floating around somewhere?
So FOMA, yes. FOMA is
Okay.
available. Might even be available on our website. You can go to the Nixon's official, not to be a plugger, but you can go to
No, it's what you're here
That's
for.
what this is for. Yeah.
.com, and all this stuff is available there. And then the stuff that, that's my solo stuff is available at zachmaloy.com. And so, yeah, it's all out there, man. Vinyl, the couple of the things you mentioned there. So the self-titled album and our album called Latest Thing, those are not available on vinyl. And there's just weird, like, not to get into the weeds, but just weird, who owns the masters kind of.
Yeah, that's what I figured when I saw that they were released on MCA and some of those others. I thought that might be the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe someday, because they'll come up for availability, at some point for sure.
Yeah. What are you showing us there? There you go, Mikey.
Some stuff.
Stuff.
We're gonna plug it. Let's plug it all the way. And
Yeah,
let's
right.
Show the website.
To the website with the Crutch video.
Let's go.
Yeah, check out the store. They got a lot of good stuff in the store.
Yeah, it's not playing friendly, so we'll go back to it.
So here's the question I had to save until we were on air, Zach.
Okay.
How many copies of the Green album are floating around on cassette from 1990?
You're doing a deep dive, like a bunch
Right.
of hardcore Nixon's fans are like, "What? What's the Green album?" The hard. Yeah. So we released. I mean, I'm old. We're old, and so our first thing was a cassette. You know, we really kind of knew what CDs were, but we probably couldn't have afforded it at the time. So we released this little cassette called. Well, it wasn't titled anything. It was just they call it the Green Album now, and it's available on cassette only. How many are floating around? I don't know. Funny thing about that is we did get that digitized. We did have, you can do that now. You can work magic and cast spells and figure out how to do it. So it is digitized. We just don't know exactly how to go about releasing it if we're going to. But But all those things. The cool thing about the modern world we live in is that all these things you're talking about are. I mean, it's possible now. I mean, I would have never thought Six, this EP that I don't mean to belittle it at all, but that EP hasn't meant much to me in my life for many years. Like it meant a lot at one time, but it hasn't meant much since. But to be able to reissue it on vinyl and then add, like I said, a version of John playing a song he didn't actually play on and get to do those, some of those things, that's pretty cool to me. And so again, shout out to GI and Travis and DFW Legacy Series for doing what they're doing and getting some of this stuff out there to people that might not know what it is.
Yeah, you definitely check those guys out. I think they've got a Hagfish album release party coming up here later this week or next week as well. So
I'm on top of that one.
Good stuff.
Old Zach.
So Zach, I have to confess, I just started listening to some of your solo stuff here in the last week or so. And big fan of the lead singer Syndromes. And this might not be a surprise, but my favorite song is What Part of FU. How did that come about? Tell me about that song.
I gotta say I'm really happy you brought that one up because I don't know that many people would. But so for people that don't know, the lead singer Syndrome volumes 1 and 2, these were kind of okay. So I'll back up. I'm a songwriter in Nashville now. That's my actually real job. All this other stuff we're talking about is very cool and rock and roll, but my actual job is to get up every day and try to write a song that gets cut on an album. Hopefully one that sells records and has success. And so what happens when you're a songwriter is you write songs and you demo them up, right? And you go on, sometimes I've got a home studio and I've got another place, and you demo them up, you work them up, and then you pitch them, right? You pitch these demos to people, and full disclosure, they don't all get cut. They don't. I've been lucky. I've had songs. I've written songs with Carrie Underwood, and I've had Tim McGraw and Three Doors Down, and a bunch of great rock bands, but they don't all get cut. So for this batch of sort of hard rock songs, Lead Singer Syndrome Volume 1, I released it just to get it out there, right? Just to put it out there. It's my vocals. I recut all the vocals. And then on Lead Singer Syndrome Volume 2, same thing. This one was a bit more singer-songwriter. And what part of Fuck You did you not understand was just an idea I had that I recorded this song, sent it to my manager at the time in New York, and he loved it. He's like, this is a hit for whoever's brave enough to cut it. And no one's been brave enough to cut it.
You awesome. Need to go knock on Hank Williams III's door. I bet he'd swing that one.
Yeah. What do you do with all the ones that get rejected? I'll take one of those.
Right.
So the songs that are on both those volumes are a lot of those songs that nobody has chosen to record yet, and you're recording them yourself?
Actually, I should back up again and say that there's a song on the first one that was cut by a band called Cavo, which I'm real proud of. It was a very cool song. And then on the latest EP that I released called Selling Light, there's actually a song on there that I did my version of a song that was cut by Tim McGraw. So it's a little bit of both. It's like Tim did great with my song. I'm not saying that at all because he's a badass, but I just did my version of it, right? I did my slightly more stripped down, slightly less country version of this one song. But, again, it's the life of a songwriter is you write behind closed doors all the time. And so these little EPs that I've been releasing have been really just me just saying, you know what? I'm just going to put it out into the universe. And if nothing else, my mom Loves them.
That's good.
God bless our moms.
Yes,
Right.
yes. They put up with us. Hi, Mom.
Right.
Oh man. So you got a big show coming up. That's next Thursday, right? The Monster Joe at Legacy Hall show.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about this. Weirdest thing maybe I've ever done, but I toured. We did a little tour with Sponge right before COVID. Nixon Sponge did the Northeast and looped back around to the Midwest, and we just hit it off, Vinny and I, the singer, and came up with this idea of like, what would, how cool would it be if me and you and we get another dude or two from bands from the 90s to play our songs and then 90s songs. And so Todd was an obvious choice because Todd plays bass. So we're really using Todd to play bass and sing his smash hit song, by the way. Excuse me. So the concept is that couple Nixon songs, couple Sponge, couple Deep Blue, but then I'll give it hell on Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam. Todd,
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Todd raised his hands and wants to sing Oasis and Blur. So
Nice.
yeah, it's just kind of a
Hell
cool little
yeah.
side project.
That's like 5 minutes from my house, so color me there.
All right.
Let's go.
So is this the first
God.
show that you guys are getting together and doing this? I noticed you had 2 shows. Looks like the next night you're up in Oklahoma.
That's right. My hometown, Oklahoma City. We're playing. So Legacy Hall 23rd, and then Friday 24th at Liberty Amp in Nakoma Park, right in the middle of Oklahoma City, basically.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll make sure to promote that as much as we can. That's a really cool idea. So I got to go back. I've done my homework. What can you tell me about Pals and
Circle back. You
And
hold
Damn
out
it,
on us?
man.
Gotta circle back. That's my go-to line. I whiffed on it. What is Cows and Narwhals?
That's kind of a pain in our ass, actually. I have no idea what it is. That's been something that when our music went up on Spotify,
Yeah.
what happens is now people can claim a name if you haven't claimed it first, and they can just start putting up music under that name. And so we've been through some legal stuff and some
No.
Spotify long conversations and back and forths. So to answer your question, I don't really know what it is. Someone sent me a link and I clicked on it and it was strange noises and sounds.
Yeah.
And it was listed as the Nixons. And so I'm glad you brought it up. I'm pissed that you brought it up, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Fair.
But I'm glad you brought it up because people should know that are confused of like, oh, did the Nixons go on a mushroom trip and
Right.
and was this a tangent? But no, that has nothing to do with us. That's
Okay.
just someone claimed our
No,
name.
we're pissed because we gave them free promotion.
We just gave them free publicity. Yeah.
No, it's good though. I'm glad you brought it up. I've never talked about it in an interview. But
Well, they used
That
to
was
do
a
that all
mistake.
the time. They used to do that all the time on like LimeWire and stuff. So
Yeah.
like bands would get known because they'd like put their music up as some other band, and you'd go to listen to Nixon's be completely other band.
Right.
So I guess they're bringing it back.
I just want to make sure I wasn't losing my research skills because I was going through everything else, and I'm like, I can't find this anywhere. Is this
You're
some
on
sort of
National. It's National Geographic.
right?
Leave it to Brad to come, dig deep enough to.
Yeah, to make it awkward. That's what I do.
I promise you, I'm glad you brought it up because I do get an occasional, DM or message of like, what is this? When did you guys do this, weird thing? And that's not us.
Thanks for clearing that
Well,
up.
there you go.
Appreciate it.
yeah.
Get
So
some eye
I'll circle
rolls.
back to the solo artist stuff and kind of to the album that me and Mike have. So we actually got that vinyl and you signed it for us at that Will Call show in the back room where you did some of your solo stuff and you did some Nixons as well and kind of did a little bit of everything. It was a little awesome show and I can't wait for you to do another one. So how soon can we get one of those again?
Well, it's funny that you should mention it. And I didn't wear this shirt to be like a kiss ass.
The plug.
I just put it on. So I mean, I should really tell you guys that, and I kind of told, I think each of you guys a little bit of this either at the show or before we started going live, that J.R. Munoz, who people don't know, who owns Will Call, he kind of reached out to me, out of the blue, right at the end of COVID. There's no end to COVID, but right at the end of what we thought was COVID, and just said, "Hey, man, let's do a show down here." And I do these acoustic shows, and it's as Amy just described. It's I love doing them. It's in Nashville. We have these places. There's a place in Nashville called the Bluebird, and I'm actually playing there October the 5th. That's a random plug for people that aren't in Dallas. But the Bluebird is sort of this really special. They call it a listening room, and you walk in. It's a tiny place, and 90 people, give or take, and you'll see 4 chairs in the middle of the room, and each chair will get filled by a songwriter. They'll sing a song that they wrote. Then the next person will sing a song they wrote, the next person, and it goes in rounds. They call them writer rounds. Yeah. And so I would sing a Nixon song, and then I would sing a Carrie Underwood song that I wrote, a Shine Down song, and then I always end with a Bowling for Soup song. Come back.
Yes.
Which I always feel really good about playing at the Bluebird, because it's considered this sort of like holy place, and I'm just like, I'm going to kind of fuck with you right now, Bluebird. Sing you a song that starts with, she said she needed a break, a little time to think, and then she went to Cleveland with some guy named Leland that she met at the bank. And that's not what the Bluebird is used to hearing. But JR was really cool. He's like, I know you do these shows. Let's do some cool version of that in Dallas. And he was actually cool. He introduced me that night on stage. It was a month and a half ago. And it was, hey, you guys, we're not going to be sort of prima donnas about it, but listen, I mean, this is a songwriter. Listen to the stories he's going to tell. I tell the story of writing these songs. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to say that, the world at the moment, I'm knocking on wood, seems to be opening up a bit. I've got a show in Oklahoma City in October that you can check my social medias. It's a show just like that I just described. And then, Amy, to answer your question, JR and I have just been texting back and forth about maybe December, maybe January to get back and do another show, because we just had a blast with it.
My birthday is December 10th, so I recommend that week would be a good date night for me and Mikey.
January 23rd, my birthday, also a good.
We'll mark that down.
Brad, you want to throw your birthday in the mix too?
I don't want to brag, but mine's Friday the 5th, so that's probably better. Get a good draw on a Friday night. I'm just saying.
Okay, so no, wait, who is the 23rd?
People's.
Okay, so let me tell you something. This is a random thing that I'm only mentioning this for the weirdest of all reasons. I didn't mean to plug this other thing I'm doing. But this is okay. So just hang with me.
You're welcome.
No, see if you can follow me here. So, do you guys know what Shiprocked is?
Absolutely. Of course.
Okay, so there's this sort of sliver of Shiprock called the Stowaways, and it'll be members of different bands that will play sort of random shows, over in this area, I am a member of the Stowaways for the 2022 Shiprocked, which departs from Galveston January 22nd. So people, I don't know.
I actually looked at going to last year's, but obviously that got canceled. And our good friend CJ and Elena will be on those tours too. So I might look into it.
Well, so it's funny because I'm playing on sort of this sort of side band thing, and we've been talking a little bit about who I write with. And one of the bands that I've written with, well, an artist I've written with recently is Lejean.
Yeah, LJ.
Yeah, and we actually
love LJ.
We took Lejean. We took Seven Dust on one of their first tours, like in 1996. And so then I hooked up with Lejean about 3 months ago to start writing for a project he's working on. And as I'm leaving, I get the offer for me to play on Shiprocked, and I show him, and he's one of the headliners. It's like Lamb of God, Seven Dust, and a guy named Aaron Jones, who I've written with too, and a bunch of. So it's funny when I play these shows, like as the old man songwriter. We played a show. We played Edgefest in Dallas, and a band I had written with called Goodbye June. They came over to the side of our stage, and they just kept looking at me, making this face like, "What are you doing?" what are you doing? You're a songwriter. What are you doing on stage? That's the whole thing of people. That's the whole thing of people know me one way and other people know me another way. Like they didn't know me as a guy that was in a band. We just never talked about it. So
That's fantastic.
So that was the Edge Fest that was up in Frisco, wasn't it?
yeah, that's right.
2017 or somewhere around
I was there. Yeah.
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 It was a good
Yeah,
one.
we went to that. That was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I
it was.
believe so.
Yeah, I was there. That's the first time I actually saw you guys. So
What?
Nice.
yeah, I know.
I saw them before I technically got to see them because I wasn't old enough to be at Trees and they were playing at Trees. And so it's a weird story, but yeah, I went to Blockbuster Music and they were signing, Nixons were signing,
Blockbuster Music. What's
yeah, and
that?
I won. They had this raffle. They had a raffle, and I ended up winning the raffle. And so I went to dinner. I got to go on the party bus and go to dinner with the Nixons and met everybody. It was pretty awesome. Of course, I got kicked out of school the next day for wearing their shirt, but that's a whole nother story.
Why did you get kicked out for wearing our shirt?
So basically, the shirt had the Oklahoma seal or whatever on the front, but on the back it said "cool as all fuck" in like giant black letters. Well, back then we all wore flannels, so I could convince my parents.
Covered it up.
I was gonna wear a flannel. It's not a big deal. Well, in the lunchroom, I forgot I had it on, and
yeah, I'm sure you did.
I pulled it. I pulled it off.
Story.
And I just happened to have my back to all the principals, so that's my.
Let them know that you're cool as all fuck.
That was my cool as all fuck story.
Mikey, I got to tell you, that's so funny to me because we have another shirt that says "Burn, motherfucker, burn," and then we have another shirt that says "Ignorant fuck" on the back. And
Yeah, I was just looking at that ignorant fuck one, reminiscing.
I remember stories vividly of other kids getting kicked out of school because of our shirts. Damn, we were really
You were a catalyst of
Right?
of children getting fucked up.
But my next show, though, I always wanted to ask you is I remember going to Rockfest. I think it was it 94 Rockfest? What year was that? Rockfest at Motor Speedway, and you guys
95.
played the night before. And that was crazy. I remember just going through the chaos of people, and then
Did you say Blockbuster Rockfest?
yes, that one.
The summer of 1997.
Was that what it was? 97.
That's yes.
Yeah, that
That's
was.
forever burned in my mind.
Oh.
It was 108 degrees outside.
It was
that
crazy.
day,
They had these giant ice blocks on the ground, and
135 degrees on the track.
it was nuts.
Jesus.
Wow.
What was it like to play that?
that was a big deal for us, and there were actually weird, awful things that happened. But all I'll say is that we did get to play. We did get to play, you know, sort of a portion of it that was amazing, and to be part of some of those bands that were part of that show were pretty awesome. And that was sort of the kickoff to that second album for us. So it was amazing. It was great to be a part of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just remember it being a crazy time. I don't remember much from it. Jared seems to want to write us.
I was going to say Jared had a long message. I
That's
tried to
too
read
long,
it, but
Jared.
It's way too long.
Yeah.
We're all
I'll take
reading.
a moment of silence to read yours.
Moment of silence to read that Jared
Right?
Mitchell's concert was in '96 to see the Nixons.
Deep
Texas
thoughts.
State Spring break.
I got to spring break bash. Okay. Awesome,
We love you, Jared.
That's awesome.
He said, my bad.
All right, it's all right. So, Zach, some of the bands that you guys have opened for, what's been the most kind of unusual fit for the Nixons?
Well, that's a interesting question, because we actually felt pretty lucky when we were kind of coming up, because it was easy when we were part of the Deep Ellum scene, because it would just be like, hey, do you guys want to open for Tripping Daisy? Do you want to open for the Toadies? And we ended up opening for a bunch of other touring bands. But when we got signed and our music came out, we weren't really like heavy, rah, screaming kind of band. We were melodic, but we were We were heavy musically. And so I'm kind of proud to say that sometimes I read little articles and it's like the list of bands we played with. We opened for, we did a tour with Butthole Surfers, Toadies, and Reverend Horton Heat all along the West Coast, which was amazing.
Oh yes.
We also did, Kiss on the East Coast. We played Madison Square Garden, open for Kiss. But then also we could you do Kiss. You wouldn't think the band that opened for Kiss could also go open for Radiohead, which we did, and Soul Asylum. And so, yeah, to answer your question, man, it's kind of, I don't know. I feel lucky and also feel kind of proud of what we created because we were able to make these albums, right, that were like at moments heavy and smash your guitar and light your guitar on fire. And then at moments sort of this, sweet song about a guy who misses his sister. I mean, so we never got sort of pigeonholed in it. I will tell you one story that that sort of defines what I'm talking about a little bit. I think I hadn't thought of it this way, but it kind of does because we would get put on festivals, and there was this one festival we got put on in Phoenix, Arizona. I remember it vividly for the reasons I'm about to tell you. And it was at wherever the Phoenix Suns played basketball in the mid '90s. And each band would get like a corner of the dressing room and or the locker room where the basketball players, right? And so we had our corner there and it was cool. We were sheepishly looking at all the other bands and the headliner was Megadeth.
All right.
And from Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, there were other big bands on it, but the other band I remember was the Misfits. And here's why I remember the Misfits, because the order went, whatever band, the Refreshments, the blah, blah, blahs, I think Everclear might've been on this show. And then the Misfits, and then the Nixons, and then Megadeth. And so at the time, Sister was like on MTV, 7 times a day. So we were the band that sang that song Sister,
Right.
And so that's not foreshadowing that's not boding well, right? You see where this is going? And so, so here's what happens. So Misfits play and the crowd is just as dark and angry as they can be. And then we get up and play and we try to be heavy. We try to be cool. And then we play Sister and I don't know, maybe 20 seconds into Sister, Nachos.
No.
Something else hits the stage. And so I, young and dumb and I said, oh, we haven't played Phoenix. So is this the way you show your love? So if it is the way you show your love, then bring it on.
Oh,
and it's
no.
It truly is as if a wave, like in one of those movies, like what was the movie where the big wave like smashed everyone? It was like Deep Impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a monsoon or something.
It was a wave of shit like I've never seen. And I was covered and we cut the set short. We left the stage. We went to our little corner of the locker room. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is the awesome part or the awful part. Dave Mustaine made his way backstage and said, "That was amazing. Would you guys do some more shows with us?" And I'm like, "Wait, did you not see what I saw?"
Right? You gonna provide the plexiglass?
And the funny thing, here's the funny footnote to my life as a songwriter now. So about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I got put into a songwriting room and Dave Mustaine was at this little writing thing. And it's like, "I've met you. I was in this band called the Nixons." And it was awesome. He's like, "Phoenix."
The nacho guy.
Hey,
All right.
at least it wasn't batteries like they do here in Dallas.
No doubt. So I've got to circle
Good
back
grief.
on something. Zach mentioned one of my favorite 90s bands. The Refreshments. Yeah. Fizzy, Fuzzy, Big and Buzzy. They're from Phoenix or that area as well. Yeah. So I could see why they would be on that lineup. But have you done anything with those guys?
Haven't. And it's funny you mentioned them. I don't think of them often, but I do. I will say that I'm a fan of that stuff, which is guitars, but also melodic. I alluded to it earlier that we got lumped in with heavy bands sometimes and sometimes lighter bands, much to our sort of awful results in Phoenix. But no, it's cool. I was having this conversation with someone the other day that like all those bands that we were talking about earlier about the TFW Legacy series, and you mentioned the Refreshments. They were part of that time period. Mm. Just a bunch of really cool bands. You could go to your heavy places, obviously, if you wanted to. I personally am always a sucker for a good melody, cool lyrics. And so I'll always hearken back to that time and specifically I'll circle back to Deep Ellum just because just the other day, someone was talking about the Toadies to me and I was just like, I just don't know if it got much better than that for what they did, which was sort of this really tense guitar-driven rock, but with cool melodies and cool stories, if not cool ideas. Like I didn't know what he was talking about half the time, but I didn't care because it was just kind of like, wow, that's cool. It's thoughtful and interesting. And in my job now as a songwriter, I do have to think about that a lot. And so it's just funny that of all those bands that came out of that time, there are some, I won't say the names, that were big-ish, but the lyrics were maybe, dreamier, and I didn't really latch onto them. They were maybe cool on stage and good for them, and some of them are still going. But to me, my favorites are the bands like the Toadies and the Refreshments. I mean, shout out, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I'm gonna go there with you, every time. But just, I don't know, some of those bands that just actually were saying things lyrically. I was again proud of our band that we did kind of go there and just say, we're not going to just be nonsensical, blah, 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 under some cool, grungy music,
Very cool. Well, if you haven't checked it out, check out Roger Klein and the Peacemakers. That's his
that's right.
band after the Refreshments. First two albums, and then he's doing his own thing.
I do know that band. I've listened to some of that stuff. He's great.
That's one of my favorites.
Agreed.
All right, I got to take another sip. Amy, take it away.
You noticed that I was also taking a sip.
I did.
Rude.
You're on the spot.
Peoples, you should have come in clutch to take care of both of us.
I was about to take a sip, and then I was like, I got to come in and save these assholes.
Take it away.
No, I don't know. I think, I mean, to be honest, I did listen to, the Nixons. I mean, who didn't back in the 90s? For me, I get in that, those nostalgic moments where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to straight Sponge or straight the Nixons or straight, just like, and I go down this rabbit hole as, a lot of us do. And, I tell you, the 90s were a very specific spot in time where music was spectacular. Whether you were a one-hit wonder or, out and mega shows every night. But I know that the Nixons have always has a special place in my heart, being from Dallas, where I have seen you guys at Trees. I have seen you guys in small venues. I've seen you guys in large venues. So I guess kind of where I'm going with this is, I'm sure it's kind of both, but what do you prefer? Do you like small, intimate shows, or do you like big rock arenas?
Well, I'll do it this way. I'll speak for Ricky, my bass player, and say that he prefers small rock clubs where it can be sweaty and trashy and, intimate, as to use a cheesy word. And I do too. I mean, Trees last weekend was amazing. I mean, it was smashed to the, gill with people. But listen, man, I mean, we played Red Rocks 5 times. We played Madison. I mentioned Madison Square Garden. We played a festival in Toronto, outside of Toronto, called Eden Fest, and there were 250,000 people there. We shared the stage with bands like The Cure and REM. Like, what the fuck were we doing there? I don't know. You know,
Sure,
but,
sure.
no, but I mean this in all sincerity. You sort of have to. I mean, I think, and I think we did sort of soak it all up for what it was and accept that this is amazing. It's different, you know. And the thing that like Ricky would say, if I'm speaking again for Ricky, is that, man, this big stage outside, you can't hear anything. You can't feel the rock. And then I'm like, oh, but wait, look, there's like 25,000 people in front of you, dude. Just feel that.
listen to them singing back to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a good question of like, what do you like the most? But there's zero answer. I mean, we, you know, again, we got really lucky. We played, you know, we kind of got incredibly fortunate to be in a little tiny sliver of time where we played CBGBs, you know, with, you know, Joan Jett, you know, and we also played this big festival I mentioned in you know, in outside of Toronto. We played Edge Fest in Dallas back in the day in front of 25,000 people. Recently in Frisco in a soccer stadium. I love that shit. Are you kidding me? How can you not love seeing just a sea of people? But, you know, again, it was just beautiful to be at Trees last weekend. And, you know, the cool thing about a show like that, and especially for I'm going to call it a hometown show.
Totally.
Just because I tell a funny story. There's a certain song that the Nixons play that, you know, I'm making the set list, you know, a few weeks before, and my wife is saying, no one knows that song. Why are you doing that one? And I was kind of like, well, this is one for me. I'm just going to do this one for me. We do this song called Gabriel. And it wasn't a single. It wasn't a big hit, you know, but it was crazy because there I am at Trees and everyone in the room is singing every word. That's when it gets special, when you're back in your hometown room.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we can't do that in every city in America, but fortunately, we do have pockets where, you know, we could go to Boston and have a similar experience in Florida. But again, back to I like this circle back thing. I'm probably going to say way too much, but no, but just
trademark patent pending.
Yeah. You know, but I mean, listen, man, there's nothing cooler than playing a festival in front of, like I said, a sea full of faces, but to play a hometown show. And by the way, I'll take it even at one step back of doing my will call show acoustic that I did.
That was amazing.
Just me alone on a stage, you know, singing some Nixon songs, some songs I've written. That's cool. That's cool as hell to me. And by the way, the last thing I'll say about it on this little diatribe, this preacher tip that I'm on. I mean, after everything we've been through, you know, with the last year and a half, you know, we booked some shows and full disclosure, we were supposed to play Bat Fest in Austin and it got canceled. And so I'm thinking Trees is for sure going to get canceled. It didn't. And, you know, thankfully it was awesome. We had a show in Oklahoma City that was going to be amazing and it's getting postponed. So, you know, you just get on stage and at this point, for me at least, I'm just like, damn, I'm lucky to be doing this, you know.
Absolutely. I think any band at this time nowadays is lucky to be able to be touring right now. I know there's a lot of shows being canceled. There's a lot of I've seen on the top of many billboards, or not billboards, but you know, pictures of the lineup, but it says 2020. 2019, 2020, 2020 X'd out, 2021 X'd out, 2022, that's coming up, you know, and now we've got some 2022s that are being X'd out. So, you know, I feel, and I think between all four of us, and obviously you, we know a lot of bands that are like, oh, they're chomping at the bit. They get that little, all right, it's go time. And then everything's canceled again. So I really, and I appreciate as a music fan to get to go to those shows, and like you were talking about LJ earlier, Seven Dust was here a couple of months ago, and we did get to enjoy Seven Dust at House of Blues, and then get to hang out with them afterwards. But now bands aren't doing that because of COVID.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's the other thing I should say is that I think everything's going to change a little bit. Like we were surprised with, well, I should say I was not surprised, but I was going to go see some bands that are friends of mine at their sort of like big arena shows, and I can't wait to give you a hug backstage. And they had to sort of,
like, nope.
They had to sort of text me back. We're not doing that anymore. And you know,
COVID protocols.
And I hope anymore means for the time being, but I also do actually get it. And I will say this, that I want to say, this is sort of a shout out to the fans that were there at the Trees show. I see a few of them on the little ticker, but we put out this statement, right? And it was like, you know, we can't make you wear a mask or tell you to get vaccinated, nor would we ever do that, but we would hope you would, because we love you. And we're asking that you do, you know, wear a mask, be smart, whatever. And it was just interesting because the flood of like, that's great, thank you, that's great. But then every fifth one was fuck off. And that's fine too, because you're feel free, you know, tell me what you think. But I do want to say that seeing some of the people scrolling across here that were at the Trees show, that was a really cool show. And I'm really proud of everyone who sort of showed up. We do meet and greets where we would typically be, you know,
Available.
Hugging up,
absolutely,
and like, you know, taking pictures. But we decided to do something different, and we played 3 songs acoustic that we weren't going to play that night, and to give them something special. And then we did pose for a picture, but it was sort of distanced, and it was awkward and stupid. But you were just I think we're all trying to do our best, but also, you know, probably failing. But anyway, but I do want to say I do appreciate the fans that are sort of doing their best too, because we just want to play shows
As well as them. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We just want to see shows.
And we want to see shows. Yeah, for sure.
As a fan, to
For
get
sure.
to go to one that actually happens, it is special nowadays, more so than it has been in quite some time. So I can imagine the spirit and the people that were there at Trees that night and how thankful were the guys kept that show. So
it was cool.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about some of the music that you've been writing or working on there in Nashville. I don't know if you can provide any names or anything that you might be working with, kind of what's on your plate right now as a songwriter.
Well, I mean, you know, the sort of broad strokes answer is everything. I mean, just you know, pretty much any band that's out there kind of working, I'm usually kind of in the mix a little bit. And luckily, one of the artists that I work with, her name's Lilith Czar. Her actual name's Juliet Sims. I hope I'm not busting her, but she goes by Lilith Czar, and it's really cool because this is a fun story. We wrote this song a while back, and it wasn't meant to be the single, and it's now doing so well. They've shot a video, and it's the single, just hit number 30 this week, I heard. So that's cool. She's married to actually the singer of Black Veil Brides, Andy. Yeah. And I have songs on their album coming out later in the year. I wrote with, over the last few months, a bunch of bands that I won't mention. And the only reason I won't mention them is because it might jinx it.
Hey, we believe in that.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
We believe in that.
But
sure.
a bunch of great bands that I'm sure your listeners know all about. But just you know, fortunately for me, I got a bunch of stuff out there, and get to keep writing with rock bands. I do country. I do get to write country music still and love it. But I'm still kind of the guy of like, oh, you want to write with that guy from the Nixons, you know, that had this song with this band or this song with this band. And the only thing I will say is that I'm proud of, just as a sort of a footnote that I might have mentioned, but I wrote a song with Shinedown about 7 years ago, and they in the middle of COVID, the beginning of COVID, they kind of hit me up and said, we want to, it's a weird sort of story, but they want to release the song to fans who buy a t-shirt for $50. So they were going to have these t-shirts that say Atlas Falls. That's the name of the song. And you would pay $50 and the proceeds would go to Direct Relief, which is medical frontline workers, you know, face
Yeah,
covering.
their whatever their
Nurses,
protection gear. Yeah.
PPE, PPE.
And what happened along the way is that Shinedown's obviously a big band, so the song ended up charting and ended up going to #1. So it was a #1 rock song for me a while back.
It's a great song.
Right during COVID, but it also earned about $750,000 to Direct Relief. So I just want to shout out Shinedown for doing kind of a cool thing. I thought that was pretty amazing.
That's really cool. I didn't know you wrote that, and so when you played that acoustic, I was like, whoa. I was pretty blown away. That I think that might have been the highlight for me. Of the acoustic, the private show you did.
I don't know how you can even pick a highlight of that. The whole night was it was a fantastic night. And
why was I not there that night?
Good question.
I think
Probably working.
You tell us.
No, I think.
Oh no, you were at.
There was another show that I was going. That I went
you're
to.
at. What was the name of it?
Probably something at Gas Monkey.
It'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
So we'll circle back.
Yes.
Because you
tried to get us to go with you, and we were like, "Well, no, we already have."
Oh, I really want to go.
We were like, "No, we're doing romantic date night with Zach."
With Zach.
Oh man! Well, that's gonna drive me crazy until.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We'll figure it out.
While Amy mulls that over, Zach, how do I go about finding the songs that are out there that you were the writer of? Is there
Wikipedia?
Yeah, I mean, I was on Wikipedia earlier. I don't know if that's all inclusive.
Well, no. So that's a good question. I like it, and I only like it because I'm learning myself about things like Spotify playlists, and I actually have. So if you go, I think short answer is go follow me on social media because you'll see things. I'll post. Yeah. I just had this song you mentioned. We talked a little bit about my little EP, Selling Light. I had Tyler Bryant played a guest appeared on that. And I will say that I have a current single out from Selling Light that is Allison Moore sings on it. I don't know if you guys know Allison, but she's an amazing country Americana artist. And we did a duet called Tennessee Gold, which is currently on all my social medias. But I released a little playlist on Spotify, and it's just called Zach Diggs. And I linked it on all my social medias, but you can just go, and I tried to make a playlist of so there's a few playlists. One is just songs I dig. Some is songs I wrote. So it would be everything I've done, that I've been a co-writer on. So you can go find a Spotify playlist with my name on it. The last thing I'll say is I'm excited about this is that I've got this song called Little Amens that I wrote, and it's going to be part of a documentary about my hometown back in Oklahoma. And Charlie Sexton played some guitar on it, and he's an old
awesome
friend of mine, and
that's awesome.
Pretty cool. So
okay, yeah, that's the first track off that EP, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'll have to listen to that one as well. Find that Spotify playlist, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go track down and do a little more research on some of that because I definitely want to hear it.
So I've seen some like rockumentaries, however you want to call it, where you get some singer-songwriters in a room and you write a song, or I mean, like, how does that? Do you just do solo stuff and pitch it yourself, or do you also get into a room? Because I know there's a lot. I mean, you live in Nashville, for crying out loud. That's the mecca of singer-songwriters, So do you get together with other big stars and collaborate, or all of it? Like what? How is your process?
Yeah, I mean, it really is all the above, man. I mean, it's and again, I feel lucky that I'm able to say that I walked into a room with Carrie Underwood and another songwriter, and we wrote a song called Temporary Home that ended up being a #1 country song. I've written with Three Doors Down, Skillet, Lizzie from Hailstorm, a bunch, Shinedown in the room with those bands. And then also, because it's Nashville, you do go into a room with just a couple dudes or a couple girls or whatever, and you write a song and you pitch it, and you hope that it makes, the cut. I wrote a song with a guy named Craig Wiseman and a guy named Chris Tompkins called Get Some. And I like to say it's the dumbest best song, or the best dumbest song I've ever written. And it's just it just basically says you get up, you get coffee, you get paid, you get off, you get drunk, you get weird, you get gas, you get whatever, and it's everyone's trying to get some. So I can do a pretty good job of veering into just write whatever room I'm in. But to answer your question, you go into rooms and you write, and sometimes you're with a pro. Usually I'm with pros. I guess I should say I'm in a pro, like an artist, like a
Right, sure.
major. And that does happen, but sometimes not. And sometimes it still ends up being a song that gets cut.
What's the most challenging thing you face in all of that?
That's a good question.
Getting everybody together, a bunch of people late, any prima donnas that just show up whenever they're waiting around a lot.
I mean, maybe so. I am kind of lucky that doesn't happen really with. And again, I'm knocking on wood. My couch has a wooden beam underneath it. So. But I think I've hopefully got myself to a point that doesn't happen. Early on, there were some horror stories where I showed up and I was writing with a band that had just gotten signed to Atlantic Records that were a bunch of kids. As in kids, I mean 13, 14, 15. And it was pretty awful. It was pretty awful, like trying to, what do they say?
Are you responsible to kind of herd the cats sometimes in those kind of situations?
Yeah, and you do have to do that sometimes. But again, at this point in my life, I feel pretty lucky that I'm able to walk into a room and I'm, okay,
professionals.
This guy knows what he's doing. I mean,
right. You have a resume. People know who you are.
Yeah, they're professionals for a reason. Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of huge names now that live in Nashville. I know, like Jack White lives there. Black Keys live there. Have you gotten to work with any big names in Nashville? As far as obviously Carrie Underwood's pretty big name, but
yeah.
Well, the thing about the bands you mentioned is that I always like to say that I'm, Nashville has a bunch of great rock bands, and rock and roll right now, I believe, has a bunch of great rock bands. I know some people like to bag and say, no, rock and roll is in a bad place, but I personally think over the last 5 years, rock and roll is in a pretty great place.
I agree.
And so I do write with a bunch of rock bands, and then the ones that don't need me, I'm okay with that because they're badass too, So like Kings of Leon, they don't need me to come co-write with them, so they're just fine. Cage the Elephant, same, and I love those bands. So to answer your question, no, I haven't collaborated with them. I've come into contact with them a bunch and love those bands, the ones you mentioned, and there's a bazillion more.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Great scene in Nashville right now.
Anyone left on your bucket list? Are you holding out?
Just Bono. I mean, I don't know.
Let's make some calls, guys. Let's make some calls.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, it's funny you say that about a bucket list because I do get asked that sometimes, and it's of course like, well, could I ever collaborate with Paul McCartney or Bono? But that's probably never gonna happen. But I don't care because again, I want to appreciate that music from where I stand. Mm-hmm. And then every other thing that I get, that's awesome will be just another thing that's checked off the list.
That's fantastic.
That is awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Sorry, I realized that.
You got me over here daydreaming.
Got my Halo vinyl. Got to play that.
You got them all, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's our vinyl guy right there. Normally his back.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, Tattooing Peoples.
And we'll never know what he was going to say.
Always leave them wanting more. Peoples, right?
He's going to think we did it.
Yeah, he is.
He 100% is going to think
You're
that.
not wrong.
He's back. There he is. What'd you do?
What were you going to say, Peoples?
I was going to say, normally your background is your vinyls.
Yes. They're off to my right now, almost stacked to the ceiling. So, yeah. I've got around 2,000 or so.
Man.
Unless my wife is listening. Then it's about 1,200. Yeah.
Is it milk crates or is it actual
No.
shelves?
All right, I'm going to try this, guys.
Oh, there we
That's
go.
nice.
All right.
Very nice.
Cowboys.
All the way
Some
around
Cowboy
the room.
stars.
That's your
Yeah.
man cave there.
Yeah, my office, my man cave. Oh, shameless plug there. All right, Zach. So go ahead, Peoples.
What was that? What?
I thought you were about to say something.
No, I was just saying, because I mean, we're all big fans of vinyl. Vinyl is making its way back, and like a hurricane right now. I know when I was, I'm 43, so back in the mid 90s, I had hundreds of milk crates of records, and I was gonna circle back to the North Texas vinyl thing where
DFW Legacy Series.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, DFW. How privileged we are as locals that we get to see that, and you being a larger name in rock and roll, we feel like you're more family and local than just a big old name out there in the rock world. So I just wanted to thank you, for being on and hanging out with us for sure.
Oh no, man. I'm telling you, one last shout out to them. I mean, Travis Hill and GI, that to do what they've done is really pretty incredible. Bands like Edgewater that sadly lost a member. I'm attached to them, in a weird way, and I love all those bands that have been involved with it. I produced a couple of the albums, I think. I know I did. and so no, it's really cool. And same as you, I'm attached to vinyl. I grew up, you said your age, and I won't repeat it, and I won't tell you how far ahead of you I am, but I'll say
it's all good.
But it
I
was
think you got 10 years on me. You got a decade.
It's an important thing for me, So I finding my dad's, Beatles albums and Jesus Christ Superstar and all that stuff. I mean, it was a big deal. And so it's a fun thing now to come full circle and to have Travis be, sending me the test pressing for the 6 vinyl, to give the okay, which I have no authority to because I don't have those. Like, yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, it's a go. It's a go. It's a go.
Go with it.
It's red. It's red. It's bright red. Yes, let's do it. No, but seriously, they put a lot of effort into it and to make it sound great, and it's remastered for vinyl and all that stuff. So it's very cool. And I hear you, man. It's kind of neat to see all that sort of, 90s were a big deal for all of us, I think. And certainly for me, it was my launch pad. So to see it kind of come back around, and see the huge support again, a packed show at Trees that was sort of centered around the year anniversary for DFW Legacy Series. Pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Zach, I know Peoples mentioned it, but I wanted to thank you for taking the time tonight to come on here and talk to us. And I've already got the Nixon's shop pulled up, and I'm getting ready to place my order there. I did find
That's
the
what he
Zach
does.
Diggs playlist on Spotify, so I'll be rocking out to that tomorrow.
I'm gonna be passing out those big fuck t-shirts at high schools.
The creepy guy in the parking lot go, "Hey, wear this, wear this."
And I do have to say one last thing for me is that the way I got introduced to you guys was Jarrett. And I should just, sort of back up and say that, Jarrett, the singer for Bowling for Soup, he hosted the show at Trees, which is a weird thing.
All that.
Sure.
Back to Ricky also being annoyed at things. Like, wait, we have an MC for a rock show? Because that's not cool. But it was so cool. We played a couple of his country songs. I produced a country record for Jarrett that's coming out soon. And so I just want to shout out Jarrett. He's not watching. He's long asleep, or at least into his
Or drunk.
second beer watching the Steelers play
He's
back.
he's in the ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But Jarrett's been a good friend and a good ally for me to have, and he introduced me to you guys. So that's how I even know you guys exist. So good to know you guys. I can't wait to listen to more of your episodes and listen to the rock radio.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you, my friend.
All right, you guys.
So much, Nick.
All right, sign off.
Take care, sir. Let's sign it off. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. Appreciate all the feedback,
Bye.
all the questions. Thanks again to Zach. I am Brad, tuner out.
I'm Amy.
Mikey B.
Peoples.
All right, stay tuned, folks.
Stay local.
Good night.